Hello and welcome to Uncensored Conservatism, episode 351. I apologize for the noise in the background. It is my dishwasher. Anyway, this is day 251 of the Trump presidency 2.0, and so much has happened in those 251 days. Of course, the left continues with the Trump is a fascist shtick. AFT President Randy Weingarten, who is just like a washed up old lesbian, even has a book out telling teachers how to teach students to hate Trump. And our betters in Congress face an October 1st deadline to avoid a government shutdown after the Senate failed to pass a stopgap funding effort previously approved by the House. In that Senate vote, two Republicans voted against the measure, and John Fetterman, a Democrat, voted with the Republican majority. It's kind of weird, but John Fetterman is the least of the vegetables in the Democratic Party, which I wouldn't have said about 3-4 years ago. And the big news is really about the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination and deflection by the left with the all sides theory of violent rhetoric. That theory asserts that both the left and the right have to cut out the rhetoric and violence, even though it's only the left with the violent rhetoric, actions, and now an assassination and an attempt against a presidential candidate. One of their methods or ideas was to accuse the assassin of being right-wing MAGA, even after it was revealed that the assassin was gay and having a relationship with a transgender dude who thought he was a chick and may have possibly been a furry, and family members saying his politics were to the left and he had a dislike for Charlie Kirk. That is, when they are not cherry-picking comments from the past made by Kirk. So many comments taken way out of context. I do believe that a columnist for the Washington Post was suspended or terminated for falsely attributing a comment to Kirk. The thing is, every public appearance by Kirk is filmed and put out on social media for the world to see, but many on the left are just too damn lazy to watch common sense being thrown in their faces. And the reactions by some to the death of Kirk on social media are having ramifications. Some people have been fired, suspended, or students expelled from college. All I can say is, although on the unemployment line, at least they are alive to be on that line. I don't think it's so much a suppression of free speech as much as it is that employers are just finding out they have some despicable people working for them. And of course, the biggest one to take the heat to date is alleged comedian Jimmy Kimmel, who hosts some late night show. I mean, personally, I think his show should have been canceled because he's just not funny, and the show is not entertaining in the slightest sense. I mean, give me stupid pet tricks or Karnak the Magician over Jimmy Kimmel any day of the week. In fact, give me, girls with big tits jumping on a trampoline, which, Mr. Kimmel should remember that one. The fact is that, like Stephen Colbert, Kimmel's ratings were in the toilet, and ratings are revenue. It's likely that ABC, which carries the show, were looking for the right time and situation to cancel a wildly unpopular show, and they jumped at the chance. Now, while Kimmel is free to express an opinion on the air, he is not free to express a lie and couch it as truth, especially since when that episode aired, he or the producers knew it was false. So maybe Jimmy Kimmel can help out and find a new job in agriculture. Maybe Gavin Newsom could hire the guy to pick some pot on a farm in California instead of hiring illegal aliens and children. Before being elected, Trump worked the drive-thru window at McDonald's. Maybe Kimmel, Colbert, and maybe even Jimmy Fallon or Seth Meyers could form a McDonald's dream team. And remember when the Democrats were telling out-of-work blue-collar workers to learn to code? This would seem appropriate, but I'm guessing Kimmel will come out with some podcast or something on Substack, or maybe he'll run to Blue Sky and keep his little mug in the limelight. I mean, the whole thing that Charlie Kirk's killer was right-wing made no sense whatsoever. I mean, some MAGA dude is seriously going to kill Kirk because Kirk isn't MAGA enough? Come on, seriously. This was the crap that Kimmel and a lot of other people were putting out there as either news or fact. But the left can't fathom that even though a family may be described as to the right on the political spectrum, there could be someone to the left in that family. It's why they can't understand why a black person would vote for Trump. They think in groups, they don't think of individuals. And now Kimmel and others are being martyred because a low-rated television show is taken off the air because Kimmel spread an objective lie veiled as a bad joke. In fact, it wasn't even a joke, it was a comment. Suddenly, it's an attack on free speech. You can't take an untalented ratings disaster off the air, but you can silence an ex-president on social media. And that just summarizes the logic of the left. And this is the state of the left right now. In a way, I hope they keep talking like this. They're defending a has-been no-talent ratings disaster talk show host over someone who has been assassinated. It's seriously like a death cult. So now they're calling for a boycott of ABC Disney, which is funny as hell because conservatives are not exactly fans of ABC Disney ourselves, with some of the garbage they put out as entertainment. So boycott away, protest all you want, because it's kind of weird that both sides can have the same inclinations but for different reasons. And the hypocrisy on the left and their projection is on full display. Nary a word about free speech when Gina Carano was fired from a top-rated program for a fucking tweet. Nary a word when Roseanne Barr was fired from her own show for the same thing. And the list can go on, but now, because it's Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert, the free speech advocates on the left have come out of the woodwork. And I kind of wish Jimmy Kimmel wasn't let go by ABC Disney, because his so-called comedy monologues were living proof of Trump derangement syndrome, open to ridicule and mocking. And speaking of Charlie Kirk, have you noticed how no cities have been burned? No conservatives are out there calling for justice. There's no Charlie Kirk's Life Matters banners in windows or hanging in the front yard. It's just silent vigil prayers that sometimes are disrupted by leftist loons. I mean, there is a difference between a candle and a Molotov cocktail. So, anyway, remember this kid and how he was vilified by the media and by the left for a smile described as a smirk taken completely out of context? It made it into the controversy du jour because it may have been a slow news cycle. Now come back and talk to me about censorship, cancel culture, and all that. The fact is, contrary to the monologue of Jimmy Kimmel, the death of Charlie Kirk is on the hands of the left. And of course, they'll inevitably pivot to gun control when all their other diatribes fail. So, changing subject somewhat, the Trump administration is blowing narcotics boats out of the water, no questions asked. Well, when you say you're going to use military assets to interdict drug shipments that kill Americans, this is another campaign promise kept by President Trump. And rest assured, this will be the next cause the left takes up. Expect to hear the phrase extrajudicial execution when narco-terrorists have their birth certificates revoked and their body parts end up as shark bait in the Caribbean. But these poor scumbags have been denied their due process rights, we'll be told. Someone within the government will leak a story, anonymously of course, that there is ample proof they were just some innocent Venezuelans out for a joyride on their powerboat and Trump had them killed for no reason. And they'll find a friendly judge, most likely in D.C., who will try to put a halt to the actions. The problem is that these are targeted attacks in international waters where American courts have no jurisdiction. They are military actions where courts should not tread. For if they do, then where were the courts when Obama and John Brennan were using drones to kill terrorists and even sometimes taking out an American? Again, hypocrisy and projection. It's fine to kill a terrorist, but not a drug runner. And they're basically the same thing. Notice how the left basically buried the story about that poor Ukrainian refugee who got on the wrong transit train in North Carolina and ended up dead at the hands of a nutcase who should have been in jail or a nut house. This was a woman slain just for having the misfortune of leaving her low-paying job at the wrong time and getting on the wrong train. If the left was more concerned about a fucking jeans advertisement, they're more concerned about that than a transgender freak shooting and killing Catholic school kids in Minneapolis at a mass. They're more concerned about an ad for jeans than the black-on-black crime that plagues cities like Memphis and Chicago, not to mention the genocide of black babies killed in the womb in the name of reproductive rights. President Trump went to Great Britain for a state visit and got the royal treatment and signed a couple of trade agreements with the British government, which goes to show what a great country America is. Here's a man who was working at the McDonald's drive-thru window last year and collecting garbage, and now he's president of the United States. So who says you need a college education to succeed in America? Seems like Charlie Kirk was right. If Trump can do it, so can you. If a bartender from the Bronx can be a Congress critter, so can you. If a Somali scumbag can marry her brother and then be elected to Congress, the sky's the limit. But you know what else makes America great? The Second Amendment, or specifically, young, hot, conservative women with a gun like this little babe asserting her Second Amendment rights. The right to bear arms is not just for Muslim women. And that's it for today. Thanks. Have a great day and a more pleasant tomorrow.